В България, а и по света, съществува максимата, че всяко чудо е за 3 дни. И точно за това, когато започна войната в Украйна, аз и Рая много добре знаехме, че един ден, скоро след нейното начало, бомбите вече няма да са толкова шумни. Гладните жени и деца няма да са толкова гладни. И писъците на хората, прекършени под маси бетон и стомана, няма да са толкова сърцераздирателни. Истината няма да е толкова истинска. И тъй като някои хора, застъпващи чужди интереси, се преструват, че хората вече не страдат, пускаме този специален епизод и интервю с Маша от Мариупол. Проведохме го непосредствено след началото на войната, но го пускаме днес, защото тази тема е все още актуална. Колкото и зависимите медии в страната ни и платените тролове в интернет да се опитват да я омаловажат. Разговорът е на английски, без редакция и дублаж, за да бъде абсолютно неподправен и истински. Hi, Маша. Welcome to Подкаст по никое време.
Thank you.
So, I have a few questions which will be kind of heavy. I hope they're not too heavy. But before that, I would just like to know how you're doing right now.
Well, I'm fine because I'm here, I'm safe, but yeah, I kind of dropped out of life for like a week or two, because my whole family is there, but I also I was over the panicking phase even before the war began, because my parents are in the east, in my hometown, where the war began like in 2014. So they're in the occupied territories, and they started like mobilizing men, and there it means that people get kidnapped on the street, and if they don't want to go to war, they get either killed or like whatever or something. Yeah, but I'm doing okay right now. Like all of my family and friends, they are alive and well. Yeah, there were some bad news coming in like a couple of days ago, but my family is okay. So yeah, I'm fine.
And how does your daily life look right now? We had a previous talk in which you mentioned that you're doing some volunteering right now.
Yeah, so the first, now not as much. Well, I was sick for a week and I'm still sick. But when the war started, I felt really bad because like I was just panicking for like 3 days straight and like couldn't like stop reading the news and stuff. And also I was trying to instruct my friends like what to do, because like I've been through it already in 2014, and I was like, yeah, close the windows, go to the bathroom, like put the tape on the like mirrors and windows and stuff like that. But fuck, I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, the volunteering stuff.
Oh yeah. And then I was like, well, I have to do something, because not even because like I feel useless, but also because of that, but also because like I can't just like read the news constantly. So yeah, there's like one foundation in the Netherlands which is called Ukrainians in NL, very explicit. But it's basically, I think, just like the diaspora foundation. And they've been around for some time, and they have a few collection points for humanitarian help. And first I went there to give them humanitarian help with a couple of friends. And then I ran out of money, because like I don't have a resource right now, because my parents are cut from money, and like me as well, like I didn't have a job for some time, but now I still have it, because like I tutor kids, which they are Ukrainian. Yeah, and then I started going there, like I was like 3 times maybe to sort the humanitarian help, like, and it's like hard physical work, but it's fun. Like there are a lot of Ukrainians and like, that's what I did. And then we went to protests. And then I also applied for a translator job, but they haven't gotten back to me because I think there are a lot of people who want to contribute. And then a couple of days ago, there was another request for like translator for refugees in Groningen specifically. And I applied to that as well. And if they need me, they're just going to give me a call. So, yeah.
So the Netherlands is already accepting refugees from Ukraine. Like we are hearing a lot about specifically Poland, Romania, more like central to eastern countries with a heavy flow of refugees. But I can expect that probably a lot of those people are just there for a short period of time and then moving maybe towards Western Europe. That's probably something on the minds of a lot of people right now.
Well, first of all, a lot of Ukrainians escape to the west of Ukraine, but it's impossible now to find like a place to live there because there are so many people. So a lot of people just stay there with like some people. They just find people through people and just stay for a night and then cross the border. But in Poland, they also say that it's like full already. And like also Romania. I don't know about Moldova. I don't think anyone is going to Moldova, to be honest. But yeah, Slovakia and stuff like that. But they say that they should like Europe has to figure out a way how to like locate refugees so that they are like proportionate from country to country. But they are so sorry, like they're so fucking slow with it. Like Netherlands doesn't have a proper, like any proper things to offer to refugees except for home, because the refugee status, if you get it, it like fully like paralyzes you. You can't work for half a year, you can leave the country for half a year, etc., etc. But besides that, they don't provide any social, like financial help and stuff like that. So the only country that is like ready for that is Germany, because like historically they have a lot of refugees, but Germany is also very full right now. So yeah, but that's completely true. Even when we think about Bulgaria, I don't know if you're even familiar with the current refugee situation in Bulgaria. There are like in Ukraine there are Bulgarian minorities who are currently mostly choosing to go to Bulgaria. Of course, language barriers basically not existing there. So, but also because of our former governments, we never really got too much into, as a country, like what can we do to support people who might want a refuge. And now they are devising plans on how to properly handle a mass wave if that happens, but probably not going to happen because everyone wants to go to countries with more stable economies. Of course, like people need to protect their families and their future. Like that's self-explanatory. But they are trying. It's very slow. It's super slow. I think they could definitely do more, and there's no question about that. But here's another key issue right now, because if it was a war a few hundred years ago, it would have been a completely different thing. But now it's the 21st century, and Russia is currently using a lot of propaganda, not only in Ukraine and in Russia, of course, but in many European countries. Fortunately, Western Europe is trying to limit that as much as possible. But then we have the former Eastern Bloc of countries with a lot of issues still with that and a lot of influence from Russia. What would you say to a Bulgarian listener who maybe trusted the fake news, the false claims that Russia is making currently and Moscow is making currently? The thing I read recently, which I thought was really smart, is that to understand which side is lying, you have to see which side blocks like all media and all alternative information and sources of information, so that only their sources of information provide this information. This side is lying, and that's precisely what Russia is doing. But also like a lot of talks about how like, oh yeah, like I was thinking when like if Nazi Germany, like if the population of the Nazi Germany had like internet, they would find out that their government is lying, they're like terrorists and stuff. But now I see that no, like they wouldn't, you know, because that's exactly what's happening in Russia. Like 70% of Russians support what's going on, and like it's like I see it myself, because in the eastern regions which were occupied, for example, like my grandparents, they watch TV and that's all they watch. And throughout this 8 years, it's like a brain damage pretty much. Like my mom always says to my granddad, she's like, how can you watch that? That's like a brain surgery. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's nice. And he watches it from morning to evening because that's all they show. And there's not a half hour passes when they don't talk about Ukraine. Do you know any other country who in their news don't talk about themselves, but talk about one precise country? I don't. Like, it's super weird.
You're saying that Russian media is not currently, but has been for a longer time, possibly before the war. They have been mostly talking about Ukraine and the Ukrainian issue Putin has with the country, because let's face it, most Russians, like I don't know if they wouldn't care too much about that problem, but it has been proven many times that the normal population doesn't want to go into a war with a common Slavic nation, with people who are so close to them. But yeah, it is his war, and that's such an interesting thing. Yeah, you are correct. No country is talking about one specific country and only that. Well, besides America, talking about America, but that's a different thing. And it's quite fascinating, really. Well, now everyone's talking about Russia, I think. But all right, I have a couple of more questions. Maybe the most important one is, how do you see, as a Ukrainian, how do you see this war ending? Anytime soon or not really? And what's going to happen to your country? It's very difficult to answer because nobody can see the future, but I feel like you as somebody who has lived there their whole life or most of their life can say a little bit more than myself in this situation.
Well, yeah, if you listen to like the prognosis of one of the, I think he's like the counselor to the president, but I'm not too sure about like his title. But he's a military guy. And he says that there are two options, but like you never know. But the first option is that the negotiations bring us to some kind of result. And the second one is that if they don't, then there's going to be a second wave, and then they're going to completely lose resources. So Russia will run out of resources, and then it will end in approximately like a month or two. But I don't really know. Like, to be honest, I know that Putin's like the people who work for him, they don't tell him everything. So he lives in a bubble. He doesn't know what's happening here. Like, and also you said like it's his war. I disagree. Like, sorry, at this point, I disagree.
Oh yeah, of course you can disagree. That's actually something that happens in every single episode of our podcast. It's kind of what we're famous for here, so of course. But then again, now I kind of need to know why you disagree and what's the reasoning behind that. So can you elaborate?
Yeah, because there were like the most recent studies show that 70% of Russians support this. And also, if you consider how many Russians, because, okay, you see, like, our main, like, how do you say, argument about Russians going outside in the beginning of the war was that we had a revolution in 2014, and there were 500,000 people in the capital, and the police would shoot the people because of the government, and we didn't want that government, so people fought. And the difference is that in Russia, the so-called, first of all, there's no opposition. Second of all, the people who go outside, they're the elite, and they are the intellectuals. So they are pacifists. They are not like, they go because of moral problems, not because they're like pressed, you know. They don't lose money. They don't lose lives or whatever. They just disagree. But now, even when they're cut from everything, they still don't go because they don't have any freedom of speech anymore. And a lot of elite that used to go outside left the country already because it's impossible to live there, right? And the people who stayed are the people who support it because they still believe it, and they will believe it until they lose their job, because that's the only thing that's gonna probably, I don't know, maybe even not, wake them up. But yeah, even today, like, I saw this fucking, Jesus Christ, the concert they threw in like the biggest football arena in Moscow.
И мы видим, как героически действует
which was a concert devoted to the anniversary to the annexation of Crimea. How fucked up is that, first of all? Second of all, thousands of people, shit ton of like Russian symbols, pro-Russian symbols, the famous Z everywhere, and Putin in the middle of the stage in a fucking glass cage so that no one shoots him, gives some kind of a speech about how great their nation is. This is fascism. This is Nazi Germany. Like, this is precisely what is happening again.
It barely even feels like a real country at this point. Like, the way you describe this, now I have to see it to believe it, because it sounds like something straight out of the Hunger Games or something like that. I don't know. It's like, it's so weird, so bizarre. Like, I don't know how to... It's quite... It's not supposed to be funny, but that's the only reaction I can get. Like, he went there to talk to his people, and he was in a glass, like, not cage, but cage.
Yeah.
This feels like such a bizarre way to finish off this conversation, because I had a few other questions which I completely forgot because of the heaviness of this interview. But yeah, I'm very happy that we were able to talk today, because we have to talk about those issues, because the moment we stop talking about them is the moment it happens to us. But Masha, again, thank you so much for meeting me, and thank you so much for sharing your views, for sharing your story, talking about your country and your family and your friends. This is very important, and I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to talk to you about this. And I think our listeners will also be very fortunate to be able to understand a bit better how just a few 100 kilometers away from our country, hell happens. Скъпи приятели, познати и слушатели, както забелязахте, този епизод е без рая. Много скоро ще качим нови серии, които ще бъдат с нас двамата като водещи, и нямаме търпение да успеем да седнем и да започнем да работим върху тях. Ситуацията в България е изключително интересна и съм абсолютно убеден в това, че ние ще успеем да направим много интересно съдържание за вас. До тогава пожелавам ви приятен ден, колкото е странно да звучи това след този тежък разговор, и се надявам този разговор да ви е повлиял по някакъв начин, може би да е променил вашето мнение по някои въпроси. И също така се надявам да се стремите да намирате качествено и истинско съдържание, истински новини и да ги търсите. Надявам се този разговор да е променил вашия ден по някакъв начин, дали към по-лошо или по-добро. Надявам се чудото да остане във вашата памет за малко повече от 3 дни. Надявам се скоро да можем да говорим за много по-приятни неща и се надявам скоро Маша отново да бъде гост на нашия подкаст по други поводи. Доста по-добри поводи. А до тогава пожелавам ви да мислите със собствените си глави и да не се поддавате на информацията, която ви лъже всеки ден.